Take a slow, deep breath. Let it go, gently. Let your shoulders soften. Let your jaw unclench. Let the quiet begin to settle in, like dust on an old wooden floor. There's no rush now, no tasks, no troubles, just you, and this still moment of calm. Close your eyes if you wish, sure, leave them half-lidded in candlelight, wherever you are. Picture a gentle hush stretching across the land, like snow falling silently on empty roads. Now, our story tonight begins, quietly, with a flicker of firelight, in the hush of hanging fabric in a noble hall. Our story begins at the edge of a stone castle, deep in the heart of a sleeping valley. The hour is late. The hearth is nearly bare, its embers glowing with a last breath of warmth. High above, in a room too wide to heat, there hangs a tapestry. It sways ever so slightly, though the windows are shut and the chimney is long cold. The woven deer in the fabric seem to stir, their antlers tilted gently, as if they've turned their heads to listen. The walls hold in the stillness of centuries. Smooth stone, chilled by the night, warmed only where tapestries brush against its soft wool against coarse rock. In the Middle Ages, noble families believed tapestries did more than decorate, more than insulate. They believed these thick, woven cloths held memory, not just stories about the past, but stories of the past, as if the threads themselves had listened to laughter, to sorrow, to dreams. Like a grandmother who remembers without speaking, only with the way her hands move, the way her eyes linger on nothing in particular. In this room, the tapestry has hung for over 100 winters. It has heard the voices of lords and ladies, whispers of servants, even the cries of babies placed near its warmth to sleep. And now, at midnight, when all is still, the room seems to breathe around it, not loudly, not with the creaks and groans of wind and weather, but with a slow, almost imperceptible rhythm, as if the castle itself is dreaming. The fire's last crackles give way to quiet. Outside the thick walls, snow falls soft as flowers sifted through linen. Inside, the air smells faintly of smoke and beeswax, of wool and old wood. If you were to lay a hand on the tapestry just now, you'd feel that it's warm, not in the way of fire, but in the way of something living, a lingering comfort, like a cat's body heat long after it's left the cushion. The woven deer look forward with calm eyes. They are not startled. They are not waiting. They are simply here. And in that stillness, the cloth seems to hold every memory ever spun into it. Years ago, a weaver worked by candlelight to create this very scene. She sat on a stool, twisting dyed threads of wool and silk russet, indigo, saffron, and green. She dipped her fingers into small pots of beeswax to keep them nimble. Each loop of thread was a whisper. Each row was a breath. She wasn't just weaving a cinch. She was recording the very feeling of that winter. How the snow creaked underfoot. How soup simmered for hours. How the wind moaned softly at the shutters. Some said tapestries could absorb sound, not like a wall, but like a hush. And once that hush was held inside the cloth, it never left. That's why people slept easier near them, because the cloth had already held so many dreams, and was willing to hold one more. Tonight, in this old hall, there is no company, no footsteps, no feast, just quiet. But that doesn't mean the room is empty, for the tapestry remains, and the warmth that has gathered through generations of fires and breath and lullabies. It still glows faintly now. The deer stand in their stitched clearing. A tree embroidered in fine brown thread leans just slightly in an invisible breeze. The border of the cloth, a pattern of leaves and vines, curls ever so subtly frayed from age, softened from years of sunlight and candle smoke. This is a room that has not changed much, and that's part of its charm. When you step into it, even, only in your imagination, you step into a place where time breathes slowly. Let yourself rest here. Sink into the quiet. Can you hear the silence between the walls? It is not empty. It is full with everything that has ever been said and then forgotten. Full with the softest stories. A child's whisper, a nursemaid's lullaby, a secret kept between sisters. And the tapestry remembers it all. It does not speak. It only holds. And tonight, as you drift deeper into comfort, it welcomes you, too. It takes in the rhythm of your breath, the slowing of your thoughts, the gentle tug of sleep at the edge of your consciousness. And just like all those before you, you are safe within these soft walls, watched over not by people, but by threads, threads that once knew hands, that once soaked in heat and candlelight, and now glow with the calm of centuries. Soft fading tone, let the woven hush hold you now. Let your body soften, like wool steeped in warm water. Let your thoughts tangle gently, like thread on a wooden spool. There is nothing you need to do now. Only drift, only rest. The fire is nearly gone now, but not quite. A last glow hums beneath the logs like the ember of a thought flickering at the back of a dream. It casts long, sleepy shadows along the tapestry's edge, shadows that sway with the quiet draft curling up the chimney. If you were to listen closely, now truly softly, you might imagine that even the stone of the castle is breathing, very slowly, very deeply. These stones have seen lifetimes pass. Storms batter the walls, candles come and go, songs sung and forgotten. And yet the tapestry remains. It is not merely a decoration. It is, in its own quiet way, alive. The medieval mind believed in that, truly believed it. That memory didn't only live in books or stories told aloud. It lived in things, in objects, in cloth, in wood grain, in the pattern of tiles on a cold floor. A lady's comb could carry sorrow, a knight's buckle could carry pride, and a tapestry, oh, a tapestry could carry warmth, centuries of it. It said that, long ago, when the noble family of this castle was away on campaign, the castle was left under the care of a quiet servant named Eleonora. She rarely spoke. She lit the fires. She turned the sheets. She kept bees in the kitchen garden and sang lullabies to them in a language no one remembered. At night, Eleonora would sit beneath this very tapestry and stitch, not to alter it, no, just to mirror it. She had her own cloth, a tiny one, and with every deer she traced, every stitched tree, she whispered something from the day, a wish, a memory, a dream. People began to say that her own tapestry grew warmer the longer she worked on it, that if someone wept beside it, they fell asleep sooner, that babies placed near it cried less. But Eleonora never spoke of it. She only worked, and the castle watched, and the castle remembered. Outside tonight, the air turned sharper. There's a stillness to midwinter that feels almost sacred. Even the owls are quieter. Only the wind speaks, curling softly against shuttered windows, brushing dried ivy against the sill. Inside, under the tapestry, the air remains still, protected. It smells faintly of smoke and woven wool, beeswax and pine soot. Can you feel it? That quiet heaviness, like a woolen blanket draped over your body. Not heavy in burden, heavy in safety, like the weight of stories pressed gently over time. Now, let us follow the threads for a while longer. Not just the threads of the cloth, but of memory. Imagine running your fingers over the stitching, feeling the tiny ridges, like whispers locked in thread. There's a part of the deer that is stitched in teal wool, rare for the time, drawn from woad and sky. Another part is russet-trade clay and wild bark. The border carries golden thread, not real gold, but something that glimmers faintly in low light, catching your eye as your thoughts begin to drift. In medieval times, the creation of such colors took months. Some dye had to be fermented underground in cool jars. Some threads were soaked with crushed petals. Every inch of the tapestry was born from patience. And tonight, you are resting within the hush of that patience, that soft, enduring love of someone who wove by candlelight while snow covered the rooftops outside. Let yourself breathe with that rhythm now, in and out, like thread pulled gently through cloth. No force, no worry, just a steady pull of comfort. Your thoughts may come and go, that's all right. Let them, like deer moving between trees, quiet and unbothered. There's no need to hold on to them, only watch them pass. Back in the present, the fire has finally gone out. All that remains is its scent, and the tapestry, still swaying, still warm, still remembering. And you're part of its story now. Your breath, your calm, your dream. It has taken it in, folded it among the stitches, held it softly in its clothed heart. The deer know you. The tree bows toward you. In the castle, too, breathes around you. The tone softens even more. Let your body relax deeper now. Feel your fingers loosen, your shoulders sink, your jaw soften. This quiet place has you. The warmth here is old and kind, and so, gently, gently, you drift, cradled by thread and story, by hush and history. Let sleep come now. It knows the way. Now, our story returns to Eleonora, the quiet servant. Years passed, the noble family came and went, and the halls sometimes lay empty through long winters. But Eleonora stayed, always, and so did the tapestry, and over time, they say, the two became nearly the same. She wove her feelings into that fabric, calm when it snowed, sorrow when a bird died in the courtyard, joy when wild violets pushed through the cracks in the stable wall. One day, a traveling bard came through the region and stayed the night. He was known to sing ballads of great wars and roaring kings. But when he entered the great hall and sat by the tapestry, he felt quiet. He said he had the strangest dream. A woven deer had blinked at him, and in its eye, he saw a forest knot of this world. He left at dawn, whispering a lullaby he'd never known before. They say it echoed faintly, for years, through the stones. It was after that, people began to believe that tapestry was enchanted. Not in a fearful way, no curses, no spells, only presence. Memory held so carefully that it softened into magic. Not flashy, not loud, just warmth, familiarity, a soft welcome in thread. Can you see the room again? The great wooden beams above, the flagstone floor, the single candle now guttering on the long dining table. There's a slight breeze that pulls at the tapestry's edge, the air drawn from the chimney, where smoke once curled. It moves, but not harshly, more like a breath, a slow, steady breath from a castle that is, perhaps, alive. In the medieval world, they believed buildings had spirits, a kind of soul formed from all the lives they sheltered. The hearth was its heart, the beams, its ribs, the staircases, arteries for light and footstep, and the tapestries, AIA, the skin that kept it warm. Let yourself melt into that thought, that you're not just inside a room. You're inside something that watches over you, that has held generations of sleep, that has listened to secrets and kept them safe in silence, that has known peace and pain and peace again, just like you. Now, let's travel gently through the room one last time. The fire may be out, but its scent lingers in the air. A soft blend of ash and pine and warmth. There is a tiny crack in the window, just enough for the wind to sigh through. You can hear the long, slow rustle of ivy vines outside, the kind of sound that drifts and never asks to be understood. On a nearby table, there's a cup, half full, steaming faintly with mulled wine and cloves. It warms the air with cinnamon and comfort. Perhaps you're holding it, or maybe you've set it aside because you're drowsy now. Your eyelids are heavier than they were a few minutes ago. Let them close, or half close. Let the light blur into velvet. You're safe, you're quiet, and you're part of something ancient and kind. Above you, the tapestry sways once more. You might swear that one of the deer moved, that its tail flicked softly, or its antlers shifted. But it's only the wind, or the memory of movement. The castle is still breathing, and you are breathing with it, slowly, evenly, without thought or worry. Each breath carries you deeper, into the thread, into the dream. So, rest here a while. Let the hush of old halls settle around you. Let the deer watch over you. Let the stones keep your secrets. Let the tapestry remember this sleep, and keep it safe for you, always. Not noble, not born to a title. Her name was Lysa, the cook's daughter. She lived below stairs, in the warmth of the kitchen, where brass pans glowed like coins, and the scent of rosemary and flour hung in the air. Lysa would sneak into the grand hall late at night, when she was meant to be asleep on her straw-stuffed cot. She'd tiptoe barefoot and silent, her breath fogging faintly as she moved, and she'd sit just below the tapestry, always in the same spot, cross-legged, with her wool blanket wrapped around her shoulders. She swore the deer would speak if she stayed still long enough, not with words, not really, but with something softer, something that curled in her mind like dream silk. The tapestries in old castles were more than decoration. They were insulation, comfort. They held warmth in winter, but they also told stories, woven with dyes from herbs and berries, wove for blue, madder for red, weld for yellow. Each thread carried a bit of the earth in it. And perhaps, just perhaps, they carried bits of people too, feelings, hopes, whispers of all who'd ever stared too long into their folds. Lysa listened to those folds. She imagined them singing, not loudly, not with sound, but with the softest kind of music, the kind that only your bones remember. She'd close her eyes, leaning her head against the cold wall, letting the threads hum lullabies no one else could hear. She called it the midnight murmuring. She never told anyone. Some things are meant to be kept like firelight, low, private, sacred. Now and then, the lord of the manor would walk through after a feast, still flushed from wine and merriment. He never saw her, or if he did, he never said. He'd pause before the tapestry, just for a second, as if remembering something, as if forgetting something else. Then he'd walk on, like a dream walking past another dream. Years passed, as they always do, and Lysa grew. She became head cook one day, then older still, and when she could no longer knead dough or stir pots with the same strength, she'd sit each evening beneath the tapestry once more. Now she didn't sneak. She was allowed. In fact, the younger servants brought her a cushion and a small stool, and they noticed something strange. Whenever she sat there, the hall felt warmer, even if the fire had gone out, even if the wind howled through the broken panes upstairs. The tapestry would shift, and the deer would look just a little more alive. One winter, during the longest snow they'd seen in a decade, the household gathered around her in the great hall. They asked for a story, and she told them this one, about a child named Lysa, who'd once sat where she sat, who'd listened to the woven deer whisper her name through the hush of the stones. She smiled as she spoke, and when she finished, they say she fell asleep in her chair. A long sleep, the kind from which no one wakes. But this is the most curious part. The next day, the deer in the tapestry had changed, slightly, only slightly. Its eyes were softer, more knowing, and if you squinted just right, you could see the tiniest girl, barely a few threads wide, curled beneath the deer's belly, wrapped in a wool blanket, smiling. So the castle remembered her. It remembered everyone, really. That was the secret of it. The belief of the old nobility wasn't superstition, but comfort. That the things they loved, the warmth, the music, the voices, the laughs, the griefs, the quiet joys, wouldn't vanish. They'd sink into stone, be held by tapestries, carried by rafters and bricks and dust, kept safe until someone remembered. And when someone remembered, they came alive again, if only in dreams. So now, listener, you're part of that memory too. This moment, your stillness, your breath, your drifting mind, it joins the hush, it becomes thread. Maybe someday, someone will sit beneath their own tapestry, and without knowing why, they'll feel calm, safe, warm. They'll feel you. Our story continues. Not long after Lysa's time, the castle stood through many seasons, long after snow had melted and grown green again. And while years changed the faces within, the old stone remembered. The tapestry still hung in the great hall, though its edges frayed and the threads faded in the sun. But still, it watched, and still it whispered. One autumn, a young page named Emmerich arrived, barely 12 winters old, freckled, quiet, and always listening. He had no family of his own, only a letter of patronage and a satchel of bread. But he was welcomed, as all young learners were. Pages polished armor, fed horses, carried scrolls from tower to tower, and in the evenings, they sat cross-legged on worn rugs, learning songs and histories by candlelight. Emmerich listened to more than just the lessons. He listened to the walls, to the hush of the corridors, to the sighs of empty stairwells, and, always, to the great hall at night. It began one evening as he passed through alone, carrying books back to the scribe's tower. The wind had picked up outside, not a howl, but a gentle breath, like someone exhaling through the chimney stones. The fire in the hearth had gone low, and the tapestry, yes, that same tapestry swayed, not violently, just a soft, rhythmic dance, as if it was breathing, and Emmerich paused, just as Lisa once had. He set the books down and stepped closer. The woven deer looked a bit different than in the daytime, almost alive, its hooves curled in, its ears alert, and the tiniest girl curled beneath it, a shape only visible when you weren't quite looking. That night, Emmerich sat beneath the tapestry, and he heard it. Not words, exactly, but warmth, the way wind sings through a hollow log, the way your mother hums when she thinks you're already asleep. It wasn't frightening. It was the most comforting sound he'd ever known. And it came from the threads, each night after Emmerich returned. Sometimes just to sit, sometimes to whisper secrets. He'd speak softly to the woven deer, about how he missed his village, how he didn't always understand the older boys, how the world felt too large some days. The deer never answered, but somehow Emmerich always left lighter. He began noticing other things too. When he sat near the tapestry, dreams came easier. He dreamed of far-off fields, of gentle stars, of running barefoot and free through tall wheat. And always, in those dreams, the deer walked beside him, silent, protective, knowing. One morning, after Emmerich had nodded off beneath the tapestry and woken with a start, he noticed something new. A single red thread, wound loosely at the base of the tapestry. Fresh, bright red. It hadn't been there before. He touched it gently, and it shimmered under his fingers, like silk dipped in firelight. A whisper brushed his ear, not quite speech, but a memory. Lisa, her name, like a sigh, and he knew. He knew the tapestry remembered him now too. The castle's steward, a man named Ulrich, noticed Emmerich's change. He'd grown calm, focused, even kind. When others bickered or bragged, Ulrich asked, one frostbitten morning, "What helps you sleep so well, boy?" And Emmerich only smiled, then said, softly, "The deer guards my dreams." Ulrich said nothing more. But that night, when he thought no one was watching, he too sat beneath the tapestry, just for a while. And when he arose, there was a gentleness in his eyes no one had seen before. You see, stories are not told once. They breathe, they ripple, they pass through time like candlelight passed from wick to wick, and some castles just a few remember them. Not in books, not in stone, but in warmth, in cloth, in silent, woven magic. Generations have passed in silence, and still the castle breathes. Its stones are worn smooth by the footsteps of time. And the tapestry, though faded, and with patches delicately repaired, still sways. Its deer, ever patient, watches the hearth across the hall, waiting, always waiting. Now comes a girl named Maeve. She is not a servant, nor a noble. Maeve is a Hela's daughter sent to stay at the castle for one winter's turn while her mother tends to the plague-ridden lowlands. She has clever fingers and eyes the color of dusk, quiet but curious. And from the very first night, Maeve cannot sleep. The wind howls in her tower room. The mattress is prickly straw, and she misses her mother's soft humming while the fire crackled beside their hut. But one night, as she wanders the halls barefoot and bundled in a woolen shawl, Maeve finds herself at the doorway of the great hall. There is no fire tonight, only the glow of moonlight through stained glass, and the tapestry, breathing once more. She feels it before she sees it, a pull, a hush, the kind of stillness that feels sacred. She crosses the stones slowly, each step softer than the last, until she stands before the woven deer, and something in her heart loosens. She does not know the story of Emmerich, nor of Lisa, only that this room feels warm, though the fire has long gone out. She presses her palm gently to the fabric, right where the deer's chest rises in thread. It is soft, still warm, as if the tapestry had just sighed. Maeve doesn't speak. She only sits, and the dreams come. They are not dreams of great nights or distant stars. They are dreams of herbs, of dried lavender tucked in satchels, of marigolds steeping in water, of her mother's voice, gentle and clear. You'll always find light, even in the coldest corners. And the deer, again, watching her with calm, quiet eyes. In the days that follow, Maeve returns each evening. She brings a bundle of rosemary one night and tucks it in the tapestry's edge. The next night, she brings a tiny, hand-stitched sachet of cloves, then a ribbon, then a scrap of parchment with a lullaby written in her mother's hand. Each time, the tapestry breathes. Each time, the deer looks more alive. Others begin to notice the girl's peace. One of the stable boys, with a limp from old war wounds, follows her one night, wondering why her eyes shine with such calm. He does not speak when he sees her sitting there. He only sits beside her, and for the first time in years, he dreams of galloping, not pain. Over time, the hall becomes sacred once more. A quiet place, not for prayers spoken aloud, but for the whispers between breath, the kind of hush that invites dreams. Even the castle's lord, old and weary from decades of war and burden, one night comes and kneels before the tapestry. He places a single feather from a falcon he once flew in youth, and he weeps. No one ever speaks of the magic directly, but everyone begins to leave small things by the tapestry. A comb carved from bone, a broken lute string, a child's carved wooden star, and as the pile of offerings grows, so does the peace. It is said that when the castle's bell tolls midnight, you can hear a lullaby in the folds of the tapestry, not from outside, but from within, a song of rest, of long roads traveled, of stories wrapped in thread and sleep. And the deer, patient as ever, watches with a gaze as soft as velvet dusk. Years have passed. The healer's daughter, Maeve, has long grown. She has wandered far, healed many, and returned only in dreams. But the castle stands, and the tapestry still sways. The woven deer remains unchanged, its threads faintly frayed, but its spirit unshaken. And now, another child comes. This time, it is a boy named Corwin. He is the blacksmith's grandson. He does not speak much, not because he is shy, but because he listens. To the forge, to the wind, to the way the stones sing when rain hits them just right. Corwin finds the tapestry by accident. He is chasing a paper kite that slipped from his hands during a thunderstorm. The halls are empty, echoing with the sound of distant thunder. And there, in the hush of the great hall, the tapestry sways like a curtain of breath. Corwin steps close. The kite falls forgotten to the ground, and without knowing why, he reaches forward, not to touch it, but to listen, and he hears something. Something old, something tender, not words, but a feeling. The kind you get when a loved one tucks a blanket around you just right. The kind you get when you wake from a dream and realize everything is okay. Corwin returns again and again, not to speak, not even to leave offerings, but to listen. Sometimes he brings a bit of charcoal and sketches by the moonlight. One evening he draws the deer with such care, it looks like it might leap from the page. Others begin to gather again. A girl who plays the dulcimer, a cook's apprentice who recites poetry in hushed tones, an old knight who once thought he'd forgotten how to feel wonder. Each of them finds their way to the hall, to the tapestry, to the hush, and the tradition begins anew, not carved in stone, not decreed in parchment, but whispered from one heart to another. If you're restless, go to the tapestry. It listens. The castle changes, slowly. Its people speak a little softer. Their burdens seem a little lighter. Children no longer fear the dark corners of the halls, for they know that somewhere the deer is watching, and perhaps, even now, you can feel it too. The warmth of the woven cloth, the softness of footsteps on ancient stone, the crackling hush of an ember that never fully fades. A castle's breath, steady, gentle, still breathing with you. Our story continues. Not far from where it paused, in the quiet folds of midnight, the castle has grown older still. Seasons have come and gone like ripples across a pond. Snow has gathered in soft drifts along the windowsills, and ivy now climbs the stone like a lullaby of leaves. The hall has grown quieter. No laughter echoes through it anymore. Not the laughter of nobles, nor the music of feast. Only the crackle of fire, only the hush of footsteps, only the soft stirring of threads. But if you listen, really listen, you may hear voices woven into the walls. Not ghostly or frightening, no, gentle, like bedtime stories being remembered aloud by the stones themselves. Tonight, the castle receives a visitor. Not a noble, not a healer, but a boy. He is perhaps 10, maybe 12. His cloak is too large for him, the wool frayed where the weather has gnawed it. His shoes are muddied, his cheeks flushed from the long walk up the cliffside trail, and his eyes, they are wide with awe. His name is Elias. He has no home to return to. His mother fell ill in the last frost, and no one claimed him after. He wandered, first to the village, then to the hills, and finally to the strange, tall castle he'd only ever heard whispers about. The one with no master. The one that breathes in winter. The one with a tapestry that stirs. Elias doesn't knock. He steps carefully across the threshold, expecting someone to call out, perhaps to stop him. But there is only warmth. Only candlelight flickering along ancient corridors, only a distant glow where the hearth must be. So he follows the light, and in time, he finds the tapestry. He doesn't speak at first. Children often don't, when they feel safe. Instead, he simply looks at the woven deer, at the aged threads, at the faint images of people long gone, some whole, some fading, all somehow familiar. He kneels, pulls off his too large cloak, and sits beside the hearth, not expecting anything, not asking for anything, just letting the warmth hold him. Then, ever so gently, he begins to hum a lullaby his mother used to sing, something about lanterns on the river and apples falling in autumn. The song is crooked and shy at first, but the fire hums with him, and the tapestry seems to lean just slightly closer, listening. He doesn't notice it at first, but in the glow of the hearth, a new thread gleams, fresh and golden, winding upward from the tapestry's corner, winding like a vine, like a memory. And in that moment, Elias feels it. He belongs here, not as a servant, not as a burden, but as a thread, a story, a breath. For weeks, the boy stays. He tidies the hearth. He reads the old books left behind by the herbalist Maeve. He listens to the wind in the rafters, imagining it speaking in a language only the tapestry knows. And each night, he sings his lullaby. Until one morning, early, before the frost has melted, Elias wakes to find something tucked beside the tapestry. A bundle of soft wool. A cloak. Not too large this time, but just right. Woven in a gentle forest green, and stitched with small deer dancing along the hem. It smells faintly of lavender and smoke. And when Elias touches it, he swears he hears a sigh, not from the hall, but from the cloth itself, as though someone remembered his song and answered. Time drifts gently on. The boy becomes a young man. The young man becomes a steward of silence. And the tapestry continues to grow, not with bright, bold images, but with quiet ones. A bowl left on the windowsill for a mouse. A sprig of rosemary pressed into a book. A child's laughter caught in the beams like dust in sunlight. It is a living memory, not of kings or battles, but of breath, of quiet kindness, of warmth passed hand to hand, of stories told not for glory, but for rest. And so, as you lie here, listening with your heart more than your ears, know this: there are castles inside you too, old, warm places, woven with memories, lit by hearthlight, tended by the part of you that still hums lullabies in the dark. Sleep now. Let the wind in the chimney become your lullaby. Let the tapestry of your thoughts sway quietly. And if you dream of a deer watching you from warm cloth, know you are safe. You are part of the story now. You are home.